Shalom Watkins, V'kamakapash from Jim S. London, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Chachadash. When I give double honors unto the elders, the apostles of GMS, and Shalom out there to the hopeful elect, pushing this truth in all sincerity. Back in with another video, and I got this video here that the elder brother Require Kwam put up in the chat, and I was watching it, and you know, you can see by the title of his video, has Donald Trump declared war on Europe? You know, and automatically we're thinking about end time prophecy. We're thinking about the positions that these America is taking, and the other nations are taking, and how it all kind of fits in place, right? But the guys, he's this guy called, what's his name, Richard Murphy, and he's one of those kind of economist type dudes. He's saying some interesting things, which maybe look upon it a little bit deeper, right? But I'm gonna play some of this video. So fair use, fair use. My channel's not monetized or anything like that. She's using this for educational purposes. I'm gonna play some of this, man, and because basically what America's doing, or what America's being set up to do under Trump, it's become that like that 1940s Germany, Nazi Germany under Hitler, right, causing division in Europe, right, which led to World War II, right? First and Second War, it was to do with Germany, but Hitler specifically in World War II, was brought about, chaos and division in Europe, right, because of their ideologies, right? And it's funny again that although it's not exactly the same, right? These small hats are still being used as a catalyst, right? Because we had just had was it the Bondi Beach shooting, man? And they're always being used, right, to drive this narrative, right? They're being persecuted. Everyone must rise and support the small hats and combat evil. We have to combat evil, and and this whole immigration thing and Muslim thing and all this kind of business. It's all getting played around, right, to create this theater, right? This notion that the world has to come together, to destroy this evil that is affecting these small hats, just like much like Hitler's Germany was set up to do, right? To put that out there in the world, right? But America is being used in a similar kind of way, right, to cause this division in Europe, right? Through these ideologies. So I find it interesting. So I'm gonna play just a little bit of this, and we'll grab some scriptures and some information, right? So, without further ado,
recent statements and declarations, he's made it clear that he thinks Europe is in terminal decline as a civilization, although I didn't know we were as such a civilization apart from the rest of the world. And he claims that this is the consequence of our attitudes towards migration, when in fact what he's talking about is his own racist attitude. We need to face up to this. He is challenging the whole of Europe because of his own politics of hate that is targeted, deliberate, and dangerous. And
right. So like the Nazi regime, right? That was all, how the world records it, right? How the world tells it. It's just an ideology of hate. The Nazi government, right? But as I said, Trump's coming with something similar. Okay, yeah, his focus is not on the small hats, right? But he's got another focus now. There's another focus being, at play, which causing friction, right? But during that period in Germany, right, there were issues with the small hats, right, and the small hats, became the catalyst of what came to be, that World War. But right, but I'm not gonna get into that too much right now. But yeah, so the similarities are there, right?
Focusing it upon us here on this side of the pond because we are inclusive and he hates that fact.
Sure.
As a result, he is declaring war on Europe because he's saying our way of life is opposed by the USA now, and he's determined to undermine it in any way that he can, including by promoting those political parties here that will try to drag us down the neo-fascist path that he's already on.
Right? These are men who are meant to be allies, these nations, right? Europe, the beast, okay, and the whore, they're meant to be, in it together, right? But you're seeing, or what you're hearing from this dude is that Trump is actively acting against, and it's not the first time, and over different things. He's acting against against Europe, his partners, and his ideology is different and against those that supposedly that we promote here in Europe, supposedly, right? Which, this is all just theater and games, right? Posturing and that kind of bullshit. But this is what Trump's being set up to do, and it's causing deeper fractures among the allies, right? American and European allies, right? Which is all part of prophecy, because they're meant to clash heads eventually. They're meant to Europe is meant to betray America, okay, when that war is eventually fought, right? And America's allies is going to play a part in its destruction, right? But like Trump has been set up in the world as some some type of some kind of dictator, right? Right? That's how he's going on. So I'm gonna read some of this, right? This is from Wikipedia, Nazi Germany, right? So so Nazi Germany, officially the German Reich, and later the Greater German Reich, was the German state between 1933 and 1945, when Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party controlled the country, transforming it into a totalitarian dictatorship. America's fast approaching that, man. This is not about democracy. This is about what Trump says goes type thing now. He's determining what truth is. And you're gonna see that this government did the same type of thing, right? I found this interesting. I didn't know this, right? The Third Reich, meaning the Third Realm or Third Empire, referred to the Nazi claim that Nazi Germany was the successor to the earlier Holy Roman Empire and German Empire, 1871 to 1918. The Third Reich, which the Nazis referred to as the Thousand-Year Reich, ended in May 1945 after 12 years, when the Allies defeated Germany and entered into the capital Berlin, ending World War II in Europe. All right. I'll read some of this. Let's see. I'm going to jump through it a bit. It says power was centralized in Hitler's person, and his word became the highest law, right? And it's like Trump, like what he says, he'll fake news. If he doesn't agree with it, he will just call it fake news or whatever, and he will just repeat that until people believe it, right? And some people ain't gonna believe it, because you got left and right. They're always at each other's necks. I'm not talking about the politicians, because they're in league with each other, but these idiots, these peons that play that political game. They believe the shit that's actually going on. What they're saying and all that madness, right? They're getting fooled by that. But it says power was centralized in Hitler's person, and his word became the highest law. The government was not a coordinated and cooperating body, but rather a collection of factions struggling to amass power to address the Great Depression. The Nazis used heavy military spending. Sound like America, right? Extensive public works projects, including the Autobahn. Okay, so we got them man to thank for the Autobahn, unrestricted motorways, and a massive secret rearmament program. Right, we know this America is all about their weapons, right? Forming the Wehrmacht, whatever, armed forces, right? All financed by deficit spending, debt. America's in heavy debt, right? And they spend heavy on the military, right? And have they even? Sorry, I'm not even keeping up to date with it, but the whole government shutdown, it must be over now, surely. I don't know. But like we had all this argument going about the government shutdown, because the man didn't want to, they couldn't come to agreement about the debt. And Trump's cutting off all the welfare projects and shit. I haven't heard nothing changed that, so maybe there hasn't changed. Maybe there's nothing been done about that yet. Maybe these men are just, just cut it off now. But yeah, that's what they've been doing, right? So the return of economic stability and end of mass unemployment boost the regime's popularity, right? Because they always play with these numbers. They always give you statistics or how good the economy is doing or jobs. Oh, we've got so many jobs. There's too many jobs now. Trump will tell you there's too many jobs. We need more, whatever, man, right? But they'll just to try and boost the popularity, right? That's what they all do. Hitler made increasingly aggressive territorial demands. Didn't Trump ask about Canada? Canada should become a part of America when he first came back into office. Stuff like this, right? And now he's in Venezuela blowing the shit out of them. Talking about there's drugs come across the border. We need to, then we're gonna set up in Venezuela and all this shit. Like, you're just you're using your military, your power, right, to bully, all right. Like I said, like Hitler's Germany did, right, into Europe, taking different lands, right, which he says, Hitler made increasingly aggressive territorial demands, seizing Austria in Anschluss in 1938 and the Sudetenland region of Czechoslovakia. Germany signed a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union and invaded Poland. In 1939, launching World War II in Europe, in alliance with fascist Italy and other Axis powers, Germany conquered most of Europe by 1940 and threatened Britain. Racism, right? Trump is pushing that racism, right? Nazi eugenics. Eugenics has always been a thing where we wouldn't put Nazi on it or whatever. Eugenics is a thing in all these different nations under Esau, right? They're still practicing it now, right? Anti-Slavism, right? The men hit the Slavs, right? And especially anti-Semitism, right? And like I said, that's an agenda that's always getting pushed out there, right? That's being used against, these different nations and that, And so we've got the whole Palestine thing going on. Anybody that's Muslim basically is a threat to these small hats, and so that's all playing in part of these patriots and their voicing of to get these immigrants out because they don't fit in with life in Europe, right? And Trump is also, like I said, getting on that, trying to raise up parties in Europe to rise up against this this way of living, okay, that's been been promoted in this era. All right. Especially anti-Semitism were central ideological features of the regime, right? Like this whole immigration is becoming a very centralized thing of their regime, right? The Nazis considered Germanic peoples to be the master race, right? And you Edomites, you all think you're the master damn race, man. You all think you're the superior race, and that's why all this scientific racism is going back into play, under Trump and these types of dudes, these right-leaning guys, right? Making it, saying basically that everyone else is inferior. So it's the same type of thing, right? You Americans, you think you're the best of all peoples, right? The purest branch of Aryan race: Jews, Romani people, Slavs, homosexuals, liberal socialists, communists, other political opponents, Jehovah's Witnesses, Freemasons, those who refuse to work. All right, and that's another thing. Like the benefit, these people are taking all the benefits, they don't work, they're lazy, right? Now you want to do, you want to take them all off the benefit system, whether they can work or not work, but you want to just terrorize the poor basically, right? So those who refuse to work and other undesirables, right? And so that's why you're trying to kick everybody out now, and detain them and deport them and do all these different types of things, right? So we're imprisoned. There's ICE. Is that what you're doing with ICE? Right? That's your SS. That's your SS, man. That's your American SS. right? The ICE, were imprisoned, deported, or murdered. That's what you're seeing. Christian churches and citizens that opposed Hitler's rule were oppressed, right? So anyone that speaks against Trump, basically, Trump coming for them, he labeled the whole left, basically extremists and a part of Antifa, and then it made them a terrorist organization. Or called for them to be a terrorist organization. It's crazy. All right, so none of these men can oppose him. Otherwise he's gonna, try and get you, right? Because you chatted bad about him. He told you the truth on him because he said it's a lie. And he'll just keep repeating that. Them are lying on me. So yeah, they were oppressed and leaders imprisoned. Education focused on racial biology. Again, that's the scientific racism coming back, right? So that's how you dealt with us during slavery. Talking about how we're an inferior species, man. Population policy and fitness for military service. I'll read that. The Nazi propaganda ministry, right? And the West is full of heavy propaganda, man. Disseminated films, anti-Semitic canards, and organized mass rallies, fostering a pervasive cult of personality around Hitler, say with Trump, right, to influence public opinion. The government controlled artistic expression, promoting specific art forms. Are you trying to control? Trump trying to control how history is recorded or how it's taught in the schools, right? Focusing on the I don't know, the more positive things of America as opposed to all the evil and wickedness that is done. Because Trump don't like the idea that you got these immigrants now in America or whatever, and they're able to talk bad about you Edomites because you Edomites have done nothing but oppress and enslave people and kill people on the earth. He thinks you should be grateful that you even stepping on America, in the land of America. You don't want to hear about all that stuff about slavery, and the murders and the lies. He don't want to hear about all of that, right? And you sort of white people, you feel the same. You're also tired of hearing it, So you agree with him. You right leaners. You agree with Trump on those things, man. You don't want to be own up to your wickedness or pay for your wickedness, right? Yeah, the government control artistic expression, promoting specific art forms and banning or discouraging others. Genocide, mass murder, and large-scale forced labor became hallmarks of the regime. The implementation of the regime, blah, 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 blah. All right. So, I'm just making some comparisons with Nazi Germany, Hitler, and Trump's America, right? Because there's definitely, similarities are there, right? It's definitely happening. All right. But of course, what Trump's doing, there's kickback amongst his allies, okay, especially here in Europe. Like I said, they're all meant to be friends and allies and that kind of stuff, man. But these what do I call them now? These politicians, okay, that are in power, because I think obviously there's some right-leaning prime ministers or whatever in Europe, man. But most of them are more central leaning at the moment, I think, from what I can remember, right? And so they Trump's blaming these leaders and how they're running Europe, and Europe's on the decline because of this, right? And you got a whole bunch of quote unquote patriots, rising up, wanting to get the these foreigners out, these the immigrants out and everything like that. So there's a real thing going on right now, and guys like Elon Musk and Trump, they're trying to fan the fire in Europe basically, and encourage this encourage the chaos basically, right? And obviously these men are not impressed by them trying to do that, right? So let's grab some scriptures, right? Let's start in Obadiah chapter 1 verse 1. The vision of Obadiah. Thus saith Lord God Yahweh concerning Edom, we have heard a rumor from the Lord Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle, right? People, these nations become more militarized, and these civilians are more, what they call that, man, becoming more active, man. they're becoming more active, getting together and mobilizing. I think that's what I was looking for, right? As they're becoming more activistic. I ain't a real word. I just made that up, but so becoming, it's becoming more acting more like activists, right? That's what they're doing, right? Rallying up and getting bands of them together and protesting and this and that, which is all part of end time prophecy. Uproars in the world, right? It says, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised. Right? America is becoming real distasteful to the world, right? Even among their allies, man. Among these Europeans, they're becoming very distasteful, man. They're becoming, irksome to them. Because Trump is just broad and brash and he's just full of shit, chatting bare shit, bare proud. And, it offends them, the way they're acting, right? So they become despised among their own people. But I'm going to jump down here, verse 7. Let me go from verse 6, right? So how are the things that Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Right? Eventually, the nation is going to break down so bad, right, that these nations that were allies with America, a lot of them are just going to turn their back on them. Right, and they're gonna play a role in bringing it down, bringing America down. It's Jeremiah 50 verse 12. Your mother, okay, which the mother of America is Great Britain, right? It says your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed, right? I said that Britain is ashamed of how America is behaving, how they've come up to be, right? And so they're gonna want to kind of cut ties, She that bear you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, right? America is going to be a wilderness, a dry land and a desert. Because of the wrath of the Lord Yahweh, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues. All right, you put yourselves in array against Babylon's round about, all ye that bend the bow, right? So all those that got this missile technology, okay, they've got them long range missiles or whatever range missiles you need to hit that land, okay, is going to be shot, okay, against America, right, to fulfill prophecy. So all you that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she have sinned against the Lord Yahweh. All right. Is Revelation chapter 17 verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, right? These 10 horns represents NATO and the EU, right? These European allies that are part of NATO, okay, because NATO is America's NATO is a part of America. America is military, right? America are the head of NATO, right? So they're all meant to be friends and allies and fighting together for the common goals and all this kind of business, right? But they're finding themselves more and more divided, right? Again, especially how Trump is treating his allies over here in Europe, right? And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore representing America, the harlot on the beast, right? And shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree, right? They're going to put her on fire with those arrows, with those missiles, right? For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and give the kingdom unto the beast until the words of God shall be fulfilled. Right, this is all end time prophecy, right? And like I said, you can see how, because of how Trump is moving, and the American public and how they're expressing all this hate, all this they're generating and projecting all this hate and rising up other people here in Europe to kind of bring more and more discord, right? You can see how that's not like being received well by these politicians, even though only, like I said, this is all game, that these men are doing, really, because the chaos is meant to be sold and they want to sow chaos, right? But this is being spearheaded by America. America is the one bringing the world into the state. All right, and these are going to be the outcomes. Right, this is all going to lead to war. Okay, internally and externally between nations and like inside nations. You know, because of the philosophy of this whore, of these Edomites, right? So yeah, for God have put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, okay, which is America, which reigneth over the kings of the earth, right? And that's why these nations, man, when Trump comes around, the men have to be humble. The men are humble because anytime America decides that they ain't gonna fuck with you or make you an enemy, it's a big issue, man. It's a big problem. That's why they were crying when Trump was throwing them tariffs around, man. And Europe, like Britain was like, no, well, maybe we can cut a deal because them man don't survive. None of these nations are gonna survive as well without America. America is important to the whole world, right? That's why you won't see no one just cut off ties with America and do no business with them, even though they might be enemies. Like China. Like China still do business with America. Yeah, he slapped on some tariffs and that, but guess what? The goods were still being moved back and forth, guarantee you, because China want that money. Yeah, they're going to be making a bit less now, but or whatever. But they can't afford not to be partners with America. Nobody can't. America's a massive market, right? Where there's more disposable income in America, even though that's declining, among the people than there is in other nations. All right, so everyone who wants to sell their goods there, and that's again another part of biblical prophecy. Get a great merchant city where all the merchants sell their goods. And that's why they're going to cry when America's destroyed. Because like, who's going to buy our wares anymore? That's what the scriptures say. Revelation. All right. So again, these are all nods to biblical prophecy being fulfilled. All right. This is Isaiah 14:6. Let's see. I'm starting from verse 4, right? It said, thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased? Okay, again, this golden city represents America. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in continual wrath with a continual stroke. Esau, beginning of America, has done nothing but oppress the world, man. And they continue to do it to this very day through their various different means. Not everything has to be warfare. Some things are financial, some things is philosophical. Esau is always bombarding nations and putting pressure and destroying nations through various means. But the lies is the biggest thing. Like, his lies is destroying places, man. Because people are adopting these ways of living, thinking that this is the way forward, and again, it's not. People got them believing that they're the superior, they're most intelligent, that these small acts are the children of God. All these lies, man, is only destroying the planet because it has to be lie upon lie with them. Okay, that's how Esau works. By all these lies, is bringing this world down to its knees, man. Bringing nothing but chaos because it's vacant of truth. But it said, he who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nation in anger is persecuted and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet, they break forth into singing. All right, so it's going to be a great, joyful day when America goes down, man, because all this and these Edomites are out of power. Because it's going to be, you're going to be living in a real world for once, right? Not under the illusion that they have created. Not this way of living we've been given, right? So we can actually rest and relax. Well, yeah, we can. You might got work to do. You got building the walls, man. But you're gonna be living in an era of truth, man. Which like I said, is not happening here, right? It's Revelation chapter 6 verse 4, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace on the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. Right, Esau is here. Nothing, his purpose is only here to take peace on the earth. Right, he's here to sow discord and evil and wickedness in every place. to create chaos, man, that he can take advantage of, right? Because this helps him, consolidate his new world order, right? Sowing all this discord, right? So they can come in with solutions that seem like, is the only viable option, right? But in truth, all he's offering you is slavery, where these elites are going to rule with an iron fist, basically, with complete control, okay, with a technocracy, right? Because that's what's being set up right now. So it ain't going to be so much about these leaders, but these elites that that own all these corporations that are going to be running everything, But yeah, he ain't nothing. He ain't doing nothing but take peace from the earth, man. Right, like I said, and Trump's just a great character for that. Truly, he may be the man that fulfills all of this, man. But if not, then not. There will be somebody else. Don't worry. There'll be somebody else to fulfill or finish Ra's al Ghul's destiny. Nah, to finish the job. Whether it be Trump or whether it be somebody else, it doesn't matter who. America is only on one path. There's only one path America is going to take, and it's going to lead straight to perdition. Right, no matter who's at the helm, or no, whatever puppet is in place. You know what I mean? It's Revelation chapter 20, verse 8. And when start from 7, right? And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, right? Satan's having a good old time right now, right? You remember reading in that Nazi Germany thing about the Holy Roman Empire, how they looked at themselves as the the resurgence or the continuance of that. Okay, really the whole of Esau's system, his rebirth is the reborn of the Roman Empire, and this is why it's known in the scriptures as the head that was wounded to death, but came back. Okay, that was revived. Okay, that's what represents Esau's resurgence back in the 1400s. The period they call the Renaissance period. Right, so this 1,000-year period that he's been around now in these different seats of power. Okay, this is what he's talking about. Right, since Rome fell, since he came out of power, and Rome was taken over by Jake, right, ruled by Jakes, by Israelites, okay, or Gentile Israelites. Put it like that, right? Because they men were in their right mind anyway. They were pagans and doing all kinds of things, right? But they were Israelites all the same. Esau wasn't in power then. He was shut up for 1,000 years, unable to make a mark on the earth, right? Until the Renaissance period, right? So he's had that time since then till now. He's been, pulling strings and doing all kind of wickedness, right? So it says here, shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, right? All this that they're doing is going to lead to World War III. Okay, again, part of biblical prophecy, right? All that what they're doing, right? They need that war. We need that war, right? We want that war. Because we know as soon as that war pops off, man, then it's over for you devils, man. Same with the mark of the beast. When all these prophecies come, it's all over for you guys, man. America's going to be destroyed. When we see that, man, it's done. When that mark of the beast out here, we know we're very close to it, to the end. Right? But when we see America destroyed with thermonuclear destruction, man, out of this World War III, that's it. Your reign, your era is over. Right? And then cometh the reign of Jacob. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Right? Under our Lord Yahweh Shai, it's going to be his kingdom, his reign, the beginning of his reign. Right? When America falls. But this is what they're supposed to do. And these actions that they're making, Trump and the small hats and all this that's going on in the earth right now, it leads to World War III. To their destruction. Right? So like I said, Trump's playing that kind of role where Hitler played back then, prior to World War II, causing problems. Causing problems. Him and the small hats causing problems. This is Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 20. Therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord Jehovah that he have taken against Edom, and his purposes that he have purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them, right? So these least of the flock is talking about these Amalekites, okay, the ones that are posing as, the J people, right? Posing to be, well, they don't even call themselves Israelites, but you know who I'm talking about, and they go all around the earth right now, playing the victim, like everyone's trying to hunt them down. They out there in Australia, you had the Bundy Beach shooting just now. I don't know what the numbers are right now, but I think it was up to 15, right, at some Hanukkah celebration thing or whatever, and so they're really pushing that anti-Semitism thing out there, man, and how, all these Muslims and immigrants, they're all after them, and, they're playing that narrative because it fills in, it matches up with all the other immigration shit that all these other nations are pushing right now, and so they're just going to add that to the rest of it, to create all this discord amongst all these different nations, right? But again, it's just like the story that doesn't get told about the whole Nazi Germany thing, that the J people, man, they declared war on Germany. There's news articles, the papers that showed that they were boycotting all their goods, messing with the German economy and with all their vile perversions that they like to promote in these different places. Right? The men run the porn industry and Hollywood and all these different types of things, and they didn't want that. So they were causing problems, man. That story, that part of the story doesn't get told very often, because you can't speak about it really. They'll call that hate speech, but it's just what was going on at the time. You know what I'm saying? I can sit there and talk about how bad Hitler was. I'm free to do that. How bad these men were, and I can say all kind of vile things about them, and no one's gonna say shit. But if you even just say a little bit of truth, what was going on, it's like, no, you don't. You hate us. You know what I mean? It's crazy, really. But yeah, like, I never know. Even what I just said now, they might take the video down. I don't know. The man so. Man got sticks on the asses, bro. So I don't know. But yeah, at least the flock shall draw them out. Right? So they're having their role to play in the earth. Bringing around this World War III. All right. This is Revelation chapter 11, verse 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Right, and that's what we do know. Right, the third world war is coming, man, and it's being set up. It's being set. Right, that perfect storm type thing. Everything's going to fall into place to where about these nations declare war on each other, man. Okay, same way with Hitler thing. Yeah, he invaded Poland or whatever. He did subsequent certain things he did, and then that line gets crossed, and what the elites say it's good to go, and then it's good to go, isn't it? These men declare war. And that's like I say, that's how it's going to go down. Give it a little bit of time, and we're going to see that. The next thing you know, everyone's going to be being called up to serve in the army. But I guarantee you, I ain't going to be there. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, men and women are going to be called up to go fight in this war, because it's going to be a mad one. And they say if Russia's going to be involved, it's going to be mad. Because Russia is not going to be an ally in this fight. Because before in World War II, Russia was an ally, right? Helping you, man. Beat the Germans. Smash them up, right? The man that did a great service against Germany, right? Your enemy, right? And now they're treated like, these men are evil bastards too, because of Putin or whatever. But yeah, Russia's not going to be on your side this time. So you got to be, without Russia, you would have probably lost that war, man. No lie. And like I said, you're facing them now. You're going to be facing them, and America and Russia are destined to fight each other, man. All this Cold War stuff where it didn't quite pop off, it's going to happen this time. And we're going to see who wins. But the scripture already lays out who's going to win and who's going to lose. Right? America's on that losing side, man. America's going to be destroyed. right? And like I said, this is what all this stuff is going to bring about: your own destruction, because you're fools, you know. But I'm going to end it there. The one, this has been edifying, and I'll catch you brothers and sisters on the next video. Until next time, I say shalom.